Smells different up here, like someone has taken a layer off the air. The world's had its windows open. You don't know this smell until you've floated in the fog of London for a bit, stopped smelling it as fog. When you're stuck cycling behind a bin lorry for 2 miles down the Holloway Road most mornings, you stop smelling everything, really. Or you have a new normal, so what was normal, 25 years normal, is now extraordinary. The Midlands. It's so much passed through. I could close my eyes, you could transport me here from anywhere on earth. I could breathe in once and tell you. Notts. I'll call it by its name. Home. Well, the family house now sold, so I'm sofaed when I'm back. An imposition in my own town. I step off the train and feel that shameful pride. The expats' stomachs leap and fold, emperor and alien all at once. The high of the familiar, the guilt at having left. The notion that you've made it, like some thin Dickensian wisp. The knowledge that you haven't made anything. This, the only place that knows your muddy knees before the clean, but you had to go unchild yourself. You're happy to be Nottingham's expert elsewhere. But each return brings one new shop, a switched bus route, some minuscule upheaval. Another thing you don't know, like a former partner's new haircut you only see on Facebook. My "hey up" to the woman in the concourse coster sounds a bit token. I tiptoe to the tram stop, as if I'm scared to wake the proper Notts gods, clutching my latte like a peace offering. I'm back for Christmas and for Gran. She's in the Queen's Med and she's going to die. She's there in a, not coming out sort of way, Mum said. She's not, we've been here before, she's fine. This is something I know. Gran fell last week, Mum said. Might have been a stroke or general dehydration, but she can't remember how she fell, or falling. Where the pain was, if there was pain. Why. Just the fact of the floor, and then all these new strangers, the same as the old strangers. And us, the newest kind of stranger. Her family. F18's at the top, a flawless panorama of the hospital car park and the tram tracks and 3 boarded up pubs, but the day pouring itself away behind them in a gorgeous long gold backlight. I put my get well card on the side, because she will, and I sit, and the hospital happens around us. No one comes to introduce themselves or tell me how she's doing, and I'm glad. I will sit here and hold her hand, and I will decide for myself how she's doing, the size and the squeeze of her grip, the rate of the strokes from her thumb, the fruit in her cough, and the whip of her wit. How many times from absolutely nowhere she says, "Oh, bugger this," or "spare me." I will decide. The way you have to study a lifetime to know. And I know. She looks great. Colour in her cheeks, sparkle in her eye, and all the other guff. Full house. Best she's been in years. And I told her, Gran is fine. Nothing that a steady drip and a few days kip won't fix. Just needs to get her fluids up. Mum has an agenda. To wash her hands of her. And this. Turn off the machines. She's shutting down. I think she's ready to die. Yeah, right. Not for the cash, I don't think, though Mum's Snenton bedsit is a far cry from where she used to live. A house. But it's effort, innit? Gran's in and out, hospital, nursing home, back. Rinse, lather, repeat. Her dying now would be a release. For Mum. Convenient. They've got her name above her bed. Muriel Morrison. Vegetarian. No custard, no gravy. Is this what a life gets reduced to? It makes me smile, stubborn enough even now to put taste before blood type. Especially now. If she's gonna die, she might as well do it eating something she likes. I read her a bit from her book. She's halfway through and I wonder how much she's read herself or remembers, but it doesn't matter because the act of me reading brings her joy. And I remember something Jackie Kay said about Alzheimer's, that it's a series of moments, and we should aspire to move from one joyous moment to another. And Gran is laughing and enjoying the book, which is a good thing because I realise after the first 3 paragraphs I read to her that I hate her book. It's like a budget Bill Bryson, and it's surprisingly misogynistic. But I read on because it's calming Gran down, and the hand I'm still holding is stilled, and she's happy, I think, or not unhappy. And so I am happy too, or not unhappy. When I was little, I couldn't pronounce the liquid U in Muriel, so I called her Moo, like a Welsh boy. Beautiful. Or a stupid American. And then my brother and all the cousins followed suit. I think about changing the name on her board, or adding a boxer or snooker player style middle bit in inverted commas. Alex the Hurricane Higgins, the Rocket Ronnie O'Sullivan, Carl the Cobra Frotch, Muriel Moo Morrison. Eventually lunch comes round. No gravy or custard for Gran, thank Christ, or things would kick off. The doctors want to know if I can help with the stroke or not stroke question. They ask me to look at her, and I do. And has anything changed? I see a face like a fallen over shower gel, all poured to one side. And for a second I can't remember if any of this is normal Gran. I don't know anything about her, then. It doesn't matter about your age, the city you live in today, you play Gran's game. Yes, Moo, Birmingham's great, I haven't lived there for 4 years. Cardiff the same, another 2 years. But I live there again, sit back and smile while she does her comedy frown. She looks like the old man from Up, eyebrows buried in her mouth. It's brilliant. She's a clown. This is the woman I know, putting me in my place, offering me some ill-fitting anorak of myself, which I gladly wear, inching my arms into the past. Sometimes I'm Matt, or Mike, her sons, one dead, or Peter, her late husband, but I don't mind. She knows that I'm someone. My coffee's cold now, but it's something to hold. The sun has slipped, shifting the car park from amber ale to Guinness. She says, "Don't go." And I say, "I'm not, don't worry, look, I'm leaving my bag here, I just need a wee." And I go to the toilet, put on some music, and cry. Stew. Mule. And I text Mum and say, "What the hell? This is not a woman ready to die." The next day, I'm late. Moo is in a new room now, her own, new view. My little brother is here, his first time back in even longer, literally years. Gran is worse today. I think it's just because I've come later in the afternoon. That happens, doesn't it, to dementia patients? It's fine. Isn't it? When I was little, I couldn't pronounce the liquid U in Muriel, and now Chris and I both struggle with the liquid Moo instead. Standing dusty bookend stiff beside her bed, using each other's names as often as possible, louder than required, to remind us all. Catching up over her, like Piggy in the middle, hoping that to watch us talk counts as talking too, throwing her scraps of our lives. "Chris is getting fat," he says. "There are too many biscuits in the office." Classic. "I fell in a canal," I tell her, and laugh at myself a bit too hard, like an actor fighting to do the audience's work. The liquid U. One moment saint, then swearing like a sailor, then sunk, silent, simian slump. A puncture, only skin, sundowning. That's the word for why they're worse later in the day, innit? Their brain goes to bed before their body. Hey, Moo. We say we've got to go, even though we don't. I soft the door like she's sleeping and look at her looking out the window. She's so small, helpless as a baby, without any of the hope. It's pitch black now, the city like the cracked screen of a phone. Mum's quite fluey when she rings me on Boxing Day, but I can still tell something's wrong because I say, "Mummy," which I never do. And she tells me in a tiny voice that Gran has died. She died at 7. No one was there, but Matt had been in earlier, so that was good. She just stopped breathing, the hospital said, and that was it. She says, "I'm sorry, Sammy," which she always calls me. And I say I'm sorry, and I'm wondering what we've both done wrong. When the news of her death is public, by which I mean I've written a Facebook status about it, which I immediately regret, I'm inundated with well-meaning condolences, all of which I appreciate on some level, but about 8% of which I find actually consoling. People keep calling her things other than Gran. Nana, Nan, Granny, Nanny, Nana. None of these things were her name. Gran on my mum's side and Nan on my dad's, those are their names. As concrete for me as if they'd been on their birth certificates and passports, carved in stone. Here lies Gran, it should say, Moo, and everyone should know who that is. Immediately after getting off the phone, I text Mum a series of dates I can or can't do in Jan and early Feb, because the boxes in calendars are comforting when everything else has become so marvellously unboxed. She starts talking about quirky things we could do instead of a conventional funeral, like perhaps something on a narrowboat, because Gran loved narrowboats, and we both allow ourselves to think that it might happen. Just as we did with Uncle Mike's, where the front-running idea was a Viking burial at sea, but actually ended up being a modest service at Bramcote Crematorium. The funeral is at Bramcote Crematorium, and passes in a fury of pastry and people who know me but who I don't know. All around are pictures of Gran in her youth and her glorious middle age, before her steady deflation. This was the Gran I clung to. And this Gran faded when I was, 12? So I didn't really know her then either, did I? I was a kid. I had a version of her. And she a version of me. There's two kinds of love, I think. Not romantic and platonic, and any of the other ones I can't remember. I don't mean forms of love, I mean ways of loving. One is actively, messily, sleeves rolled up and elbow deep in it. Not a back and forth of nothing cards, hers signed by Mum, or a birthday cheque, signed by Mum. It's nappies changed, in childhood and then again, much later. The second is in theory, from hundreds of miles away, where it's safe. I leave because I need to be with people who know my life, can tell the weight of my day from the shape of my spine. You don't have to catch them up on 6 months or 6 years in a night. There, I'm forever 15, forever son, forever brother, forever he that mucked about in school. Forever chav, forever boy, never man. Always Sammy, never Sam. And Gran, forever Moo. This is a place where everyone's versioned. Knots has no idea who I am. Gran's favourite song, I learn at the funeral, is Serenade to Music. I have a Google on the train. What hits me, really hits me, is that apparently Vaughan Williams wrote it for his mates. It wasn't ever meant to be publicly performed. He doesn't list vocal parts in the score. He writes their names.